Back to news in Denver tonight. The Denver Public School Board voted unanimously to require every school to have at least one all-gender bathroom. It's the first district in the state to mandate this. While the concept has been controversial nationwide, nobody spoke in opposition to that resolution tonight. The resolution also says that district staff shouldn't be disciplined for talking about their sexual orientation, assuming it's work appropriate. All of the board members started their statements off of support tonight by sharing the pronouns they identify with. At-large board member Tay Anderson got a standing ovation in his attack on President Trump, whose administration has proposed rollbacks of transgender protections.
I want to send a clear message to Washington, D.C. and to the President of the United States of America that in Denver Public Schools, we believe that love always trumps hate.
Again, nobody spoke in opposition to that resolution unanimously approved tonight, nor did they oppose another resolution concerning gun safety. The board voted unanimously to communicate the importance of secure gun storage with district parents. The superintendent will now have to update the DPS handbook for families and students to discuss safe gun storage.